Love. It's the siren song that lures men to ruin and women to madness, the spark that has torched empires and turned poets into ghosts. Society screams it from every corner. Chase it, claw for it, crown it the beating heart of your existence. Track down your soulmate. Love is your everything. Without it, you're a shadow. It's the myth they've sold you, a shimmering trap that promises salvation but delivers chains. Yet the titans of thought, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus, stood unmoved. They commanded legions, weathered banishment, and forged philosophies that defy time's erosion, all without bending a knee to romance. Why? Because chasing love is a shortcut to losing your soul. Lift someone onto a pedestal and you've already sunk. Cling to them to feel whole, and you've confessed you're broken. Run after them, and you've handed over your reins. Love, like all forces worth having, flows best when it's unforced, earned through presence, not groveled for in desperation. Look at the people who burn brightest, the ones who draw the world in without a word. Do they scramble for love? No, it hunts them down. They don't pant after it. They're too busy forging, rising, becoming something undeniable. And that's the magnet that pulls love their way. This isn't about spurning love, it's about dethroning it, stripping it of its power to name you, shattering the delusion that you're lesser without it. The Stoics saw what most stumble past. Love is a guest in your life, not its master. If you're done chasing shadows and ready to claim your ground, subscribe to Victory Stoic. Like this video. Pass it to someone sleepwalking through the same lie. And stake your claim below. I do not chase, I attract. Because when you stop sprinting for love, it'll drift your way, only to find you've already built a life so full, it's just a whisper in the chorus. Number 1. Love is not something to chase. It comes when you're ready. Love isn't a quarry you stalk through the wild, a glittering prize you wrestle into submission to prove you've made it. It's not something you can outrun or outsmart. It's more like a tide, unpredictable, powerful, rolling in when it chooses, not when you demand. Yet most of us treat it like a hunt anyway. We dash after it, hearts pounding, convinced that if we can just grab hold, we'll finally matter. But the Stoics, those iron-willed souls like Marcus Aurelius and Seneca, saw through the illusion. Chasing love doesn't just put someone else above you, it drags you down below them. The moment you start running, you've already surrendered. You're not in command anymore. You're a supplicant, palms outstretched, pleading for a nod, a glance, a whisper of affection. You've traded your power for a gamble you can't win, because love doesn't bend to your will. It's not a contract you sign or a battle you conquer. And when the one you're chasing doesn't stop, doesn't turn, doesn't care, you're left winded, hollowed out, a shell of who you were before you laced up your shoes. Take Emily, for instance. She was 30, sharp, the kind of woman who could hold a room with a single quip, but when it came to love, she was a sprinter, always racing after the next finish line. She met Ryan at a coffee shop, witty, disheveled in that effortlessly cool way, the kind of guy who made you feel like you'd won something just by catching his eye. From day one, she was all in. She'd text first, linger after plans hoping he'd ask her to stay, rearrange her life to fit his half-made promises. She'd wait by her phone, stomach knotted, refreshing his socials for a sign he was thinking of her. When he'd go quiet for days, she'd double down, leaving voicemails suggesting spontaneous meetups, even showing up at his favorite bar by chance. She called it passion. She told herself she was chasing love because it was worth it. Ryan, though, he didn't chase back. He'd toss her a lazy smile or a late-night reply, just enough to keep her tethered, but never enough to match her fire. Then one weekend, after a month of his silence, she spotted him online. Grinning in a photo with someone new, arms slung around her like it was nothing. Emily shattered. She'd spent a year pouring herself into him, bending her life to his whims, only to end up with a bruised heart and a mirror she couldn't face. She'd built him a throne so high, she'd forgotten where she stood. That's the trap of chasing. It doesn't just cost you the one you want, it costs you yourself. Emily didn't lose Ryan. She lost her footing, her pride, the quiet strength she'd let slip away. She'd made him the measure of her worth, and when he walked off, he took it with him. The Stoics wouldn't have blinked at her story. They'd seen empires rise and fall, yet they never ran after love like it was their salvation. Marcus Aurelius, staring down plague and treason, didn't waste ink pining for someone to complete him. He wrote to steady himself. They knew that chasing someone else is a confession. You're not enough alone. And that's the lie that binds you. What if Emily had stopped? What if, instead of sprinting after Ryan's ghost, she'd turned that hunger inward? Imagine her night spent painting the canvases she'd abandoned, reading the philosophy she'd shelved, forging a life so vibrant she didn't need his dim light to shine. The paradox is, that's when people like Ryan circle back. Not when you're on your knees, but when you're on your feet, rooted, radiant. Love isn't a race to win or a war to wage. It's a quiet guest, slipping in when you've built a house worth visiting, when you're so solid in yourself that it's an addition, not a necessity. The Stoics didn't chase because they owned their worth, not because they scorned love. They ruled, they endured, they shaped time itself, all without bending for someone else's nod. Stop running and you'll find it's not love you need, it's the you you've yet to meet. Number 2. You can't control how others feel. You can't twist someone's heart into a shape that fits yours, no matter how hard you try. It's a maddening little truth. You could be a walking masterpiece, kind, clever, the whole package, and still, someone might look at you and shrug. Epictetus, that dry-witted Stoic, nailed it with his classic line, "Some things are up to us, some are not." You can polish yourself to a mirror shine, but you can't force anyone to love the reflection. And honestly, isn't that a relief? Imagine the chaos if we could puppeteer everyone's emotions. Relationships would be less romance, more badly scripted puppet show. But most of us don't see it that way. We take it personally. We think if we're good enough, smart enough, enough, we can win anyone over. We turn love into a campaign, strategizing, pleading, tossing out grand gestures like a desperate politician on election eve. And when the votes don't roll in, we're crushed. We assume it's our fault, our failure, as if emotions were a math problem we forgot to carry the one on. Take Leo, for example. He was 34, a guy who'd read every self-help book on the shelf, hit the gym like it was a second job, and could charm a room with a grin. He met Clara at a work conference, sharp, quiet, the kind of woman who didn't need to shout to be noticed. Leo was smitten. He figured he'd crack her code. He'd bring her coffee, just the way she liked it, crack jokes to coax out her rare laugh, linger after meetings with casual but not too casual chats. He was playing the long game, certain that if he kept showing up, she'd have to feel something back. Clara didn't. She'd smile politely, thank him for the coffee, and then drift off to her own orbit. Leo doubled down, flowers on her desk, a thoughtful playlist he spent hours curating, even a handwritten note about how special she was. She stayed kind but distant, like a cat watching you dangle a toy it has no intention of chasing. Finally, after months of this one-sided dance, she told him flat out, "Leo, you're great. I just don't feel it." He was gutted. He'd run the perfect campaign. Where was his victory lap? Here's where the Stoics smirk from the sidelines. Seneca, with his knack for cutting through the nonsense, once quipped, "You'd laugh at a man who wept because he couldn't make the sun rise at midnight, yet you cry when someone won't love you back?" Ouch. But he's right. We don't sob when gravity refuses to bend or when the rain ignores our picnic plans. Why? Because we get it. Those things aren't ours to command. Someone else's feelings? Same deal. They're not your levers to pull. Leo didn't fail because he wasn't enough. Clara's heart wasn't a prize he'd lost. It was never his to win. He could have been a saint, a poet, a god among men, and she still might have shrugged. That's not a jab at him. It's just the way humans work. Emotions aren't merit badges handed out for good behavior. They're messy, stubborn, and gloriously out of your jurisdiction. The Stoics didn't waste energy wrestling with what they couldn't grip. Epictetus would tell you to focus on your own plot of land, your thoughts, your actions, your spine. You can't make someone adore you, but you can make yourself someone worth admiring. And here's the kicker. When you stop clawing at other people's approval, you start standing taller. Leo could have spent those months building something, his career, his bench press, a killer novel, instead of chasing a vote he'd never get. So, next time you're tempted to campaign for someone's heart, pause, chuckle at yourself a little. You're not a cosmic DJ spinning everyone's emotional playlist. You're just you, flawed, fierce, and free to tend your own fire. They'll feel what they feel or they won't. Either way, It's not your circus, not your monkeys. Let them be. You've got your own show to run, and trust me, it's worth the ticket price. Number 3. The more you crave love, the more vulnerable you become, and the less you'll find it. The harder you hunger for love, the more it slips through your fingers. It's a cruel paradox. The more you ache for it, the weaker you stand, and the further it drifts. Desperation doesn't draw love in, it turns you into a target. Those who need it too much don't just risk heartbreak. They invite manipulation, control, and exploitation. The Stoics would nod grimly at this. They knew that clinging to anything outside your grasp is a one-way ticket to a cage of your own making. When you're starving for love, you stop seeing straight. It's not a want anymore. It's a gaping void you'll do anything to fill. You'll bend, you'll plead, you'll trade pieces of yourself just for a taste of affection. And that's when the vultures circle. People sense it. Your neediness is a neon sign flashing, "Take what you want." The more you crave, the less you control, and the easier it is for someone to pull your strings. Consider Mia. She was 27, warm-hearted, the kind of person who'd give you her last dollar if you asked. But Mia had a hole inside her, a longing for love that gnawed at her every quiet moment. She'd grown up watching rom-coms, dreaming of someone to sweep her off her feet to make her feel whole. When she met Nate, she thought she'd hit the jackpot. He was smooth, attentive, the kind of guy who knew just what to say to make her light up. Early on, he'd text her sweet nothings, show up with flowers, call her his everything. Mia was hooked. She needed him like air. But Nate saw her hunger. Soon, the flowers stopped, and the texts turned spotty. He'd cancel plans last minute, blame her for overreacting when she asked why, and drop vague hints about needing space, only to reel her back with a half-hearted, "I miss you," when she started pulling away. Mia didn't see the game. She'd apologize for his silences, stay up late waiting for his calls, even loan him money she couldn't spare because he needed help. She told herself she was building something real, that her love would fix him. Meanwhile, Nate took her cash, her time, her peace, and gave nothing back but crumbs. That's the trap of craving too much. Mia wasn't just vulnerable, she was a puppet. Her need handed Nate the reins, and he rode her goodwill straight to the bank. The more she yearned, the more he controlled, and the less she got of the love she chased. By the end, she wasn't even herself anymore, just a shadow scrambling for his approval. Marcus Aurelius, that Stoic emperor with a knack for cutting through life's noise, would have seen it coming. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Craving love is handing that power away. The more you need someone to fill you, the more you're at their mercy, and the less they'll bother to try. It's not noble, it's naive. Love doesn't flock to the desperate, it's drawn to the steady, the self-contained, the ones who don't beg. Mia could have dodged the mess. If she'd stopped chasing Nate's scraps and turned inward, if she'd built her own fire instead of begging for his spark, she might have stood taller. The Stoics didn't pine for love to save them, they saved themselves first. Seneca once sneered, "He who fishes for another's heart drowns in his own weakness." Harsh but true. The more you grasp, the more you sink. Here's the twist. When you stop craving, you start shining. Let go of the need and you're no longer prey, you're a force. Mia didn't need Nate's half-baked affection to be whole. She needed to see she already was. Love comes when you're ready, not when you're ravenous. Build your life, master your mind, stand firm in your own skin, then it'll show up, unbidden, like a guest who knows the party's worth attending. Chase it, and you'll just keep tripping over your own feet. Number 4. Stoics don't need love to feel whole. You don't need someone else to complete you. That's not a feel-good platitude, it's a Stoic gut punch to the fairy tales we've been fed. Love's nice, sure, but it's not the missing piece of your puzzle. The Stoics, those unflinching masters of life's chaos, didn't lean on romance to prop up their worth. Seneca put it bluntly, a wise man is content with himself. You're not a half waiting for its other. You're a whole, right here, right now, if you just stop looking outside for the fix. Society's got us twisted. We're told love is the golden ticket. Find it, and you've won at life. Miss it, and you're defective. Movies, songs, even your aunt at Thanksgiving all push the same line. Someone out there is supposed to swoop in and make you enough. But the Stoics? They'd scoff at that. They didn't need a partner to feel steady. Marcus Aurelius ruled Rome through plague and war, Seneca faced exile and death, and neither of them sat around moping for a soulmate to save the day. They found their fullness in what they could control, their own minds, their own grit. Take Jamie. He was 32, a decent guy, worked hard, cracked good jokes, had a solid group of friends. But deep down, he bought the hype. He'd scroll dating apps late at night, swipe through profiles like he was shopping for his missing half. He'd been single for years, and it gnawed at him. Every couple holding hands, every sappy Instagram post felt like a jab, proof he was falling short. He'd go on dates, decent ones, but they never stuck. He'd overanalyze every text, every glance, wondering what he'd done wrong. If I could just find someone, he'd tell himself, I'd feel right. Then there was Lisa. She came into his life like a whirlwind, bold, funny, the kind of woman who could talk your ear off about Nietzsche or nachos with equal fire. Jamie fell hard. He thought, this is it. She's the one to fill the gap. For a while it worked. Dinners, late-night chats, that rush of being seen. But Lisa wasn't a fix. She had her own mess, flaky plans, moods that swung like a pendulum. And soon Jamie was back to square one, chasing her approval, feeling emptier when she pulled away. When she ghosted him after 3 months, he didn't just lose her. He lost the shaky scaffold he'd built his worth on. That's the Stoic wake-up call Jamie missed. Love doesn't patch you up. It's not spackle for your soul. Seneca would have grabbed him by the shoulders. Why seek in another what you already carry? The wise don't wait for someone to hand them contentment. They dig it out themselves. Jamie didn't need Lisa's laugh or her texts to be whole. He needed to stop treating himself like a project someone else had to finish. Imagine if he'd flipped the script. What if, instead of swiping for salvation, he'd spent those nights building something? Learning guitar, running trails, wrestling with a book that made his brain ache? The Stoics didn't pine for love to define them. They defined themselves. Epictetus once said, if you want to be free, stop needing what you can't command. Love's a wild card, beautiful, messy, but not your anchor. You are. Jamie's story isn't rare. We've all felt that tug, that itch to be completed by someone else. But the Stoics saw through the scam. You're not a fragment. You're a fortress if you just fortify it. Stop chasing a partner to feel enough, and you'll find you already are. Love can knock on your door, and it might, but it'll find you standing, not begging. That's the trick. When you're whole on your own, it's a bonus, not a lifeline. So ditch the myth. You don't need a +1 to be complete. Seneca's right. Contentment's an inside job. Build your life, sharpen your mind, own your space. Love might stroll in, might not. Either way, you're not waiting. You're living. And that's a fullness no one can take away. Number 5. Love yourself before you love someone else. You can't pour from an empty cup. Or worse, a cracked one you've been ignoring for years. If you don't know who you are, if you haven't faced yourself in the mirror and liked what you see, chasing someone else's love is just a desperate grab to plug the hole inside you. The Stoics would call it folly. Psychology backs it up. The more you nurture yourself, the more you draw others in. Loving yourself isn't a cheesy self-help slogan. It's the bedrock of anything real with anyone else. Think about it. If you're a stranger to your own soul, what are you even offering? You're not seeking a partner. You're hunting for a patch, someone to plaster over the insecurities, the doubts, the nagging sense that you're not enough. That's not love, it's a transaction. And the catch? No one can fill a void they didn't dig. Until you know yourself, your edges, your fire, your quiet strengths, you're just handing someone a map to a place you've never explored. Meet Tara. She was 29, a graphic designer with a quick laugh and a knack for dodging her own reflection. She didn't hate herself, she just didn't know herself. Years of scrolling past curated lives on Instagram, of measuring herself against friends' weddings and promotions, left her feeling like a rough draft someone else needed to polish. When she met Sam, she saw a lifeline. He was steady, thoughtful, the kind of guy who listened when she rambled. Tara dove in headfirst, dates every weekend, late-night calls, molding herself into what she thought he'd adore. She'd laugh louder at his jokes, hide her quirks, chase his approval like it was oxygen. But Sam wasn't a fix. He liked her, sure, but he couldn't carry her self-worth for her. The more she leaned, the more he drifted. Her neediness wasn't magnetic, it was heavy. After 6 months, he bailed, saying he couldn't be her everything. Tara didn't just lose him. She crashed. She'd banked on him to define her, and without that crutch, she was lost. She hadn't been loving him. She'd been begging him to love her enough to make up for what she wouldn't give herself. The Stoics saw this trap a mile away. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Look within. Within is the fountain of good, and it will ever bubble up if you will ever dig." If Tara had dug into herself, her passions, her flaws, her quiet power, she wouldn't have needed Sam to play savior. Psychology doubles down on this. Studies like those from the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology show self-esteem isn't just feel-good fluff. It's a beacon. People who invest in themselves through hobbies, growth, self-care, radiate confidence. And confidence? It's catnip. The more you tend your own garden, the more others want to wander through it. Take the flip side. After Sam, Tara hit a breaking point. She stopped swiping for a rebound and started small, running in the mornings, sketching for herself instead of clients, journaling the messy thoughts she'd buried. It wasn't instant, but she began to unearth who she was beyond someone's +1. She found she loved solitude, craved spicy food, had a sharp eye for color palettes. Months later, at an art gallery, she met Alex. She wasn't hunting this time. She was just there, alive in her own skin. They clicked. Not because she needed him, but because she didn't. Her fullness drew him in. That's the science and the Stoic truth. Self-love isn't selfish, it's magnetic. Research from psychologists like Nathaniel Branden shows that people who value themselves attract healthier bonds, not out of desperation, but resonance. When you're solid, you don't cling, you connect. Epictetus would smirk. First, know your own house, then invite guests. Tara's glow didn't come from Alex, it came from her. So stop searching for someone to complete you. Dig into yourself first. Run, read, cook, wrestle with your shadows. Find out who's in there. Psychology proves it. The Stoics lived it. The more you care for yourself, the more you'll pull in what's worth having. Love yourself and the rest follows. Not to fill you, but to join you. Number 6. Romantic love isn't the only thing worth pursuing. Romantic love gets all the headlines. Songs, movies, and late-night confessions paint it as the ultimate chase, the one pursuit that crowns your life. But it's not the only star in the sky. The Stoics would roll their eyes at our obsession with fleeting passion when deeper currents, family, friendship, devotion to a cause, run stronger and last longer. A fling might set your heart racing, but it's the bonds of kin, comrades, and ideals that hold you steady when the storm hits. We've been sold a narrow script. Find the one, and you've cracked the code to meaning. Miss it, and you're adrift. But that's a flimsy scaffold. Romantic love can flicker out as fast as it flares, leaving you clutching ashes while the world moves on. Meanwhile, the love of a parent who'd fight the world for you, a friend who'd sit in silence when you're breaking, or a purpose that pulls you out of bed, these are the roots that don't snap in the wind. They're not just as worthy, they're often worthier. Look at Chris. He was 35, a sales rep with a restless edge, always chasing the next spark. He'd had his share of romances, intense, whirlwind things that burned hot and fizzled fast. His latest was with Zoe, a free-spirited artist he met at a gallery opening. She was all fire and mystery, and Chris was hooked. He'd drop plans to see her, spend hours decoding her cryptic texts, pour his energy into keeping her close. He told himself this was it, the big love, the kind poets bleed for. When Zoe bolted after 4 months, saying she needed to find herself, Chris unraveled. He'd banked everything on her, and now he was alone, staring at a life that felt thin. Then came the wake-up. His sister, Laura, showed up unannounced one night, dragging him out for coffee. She didn't pry, just listened as he spilled the mess of Zoe's exit. His best friend, Mike, called the next day, hauling him to a pickup basketball game to sweat it out. And at work, a project he'd half forgotten, a mentorship program for kids, started tugging at him again. Chris threw himself into it, teaching teens how to pitch ideas, watching their eyes light up. Slowly, the fog lifted. Zoe's ghost faded, but Laura's quiet loyalty, Mike's rough-edged care, and the spark of those kids' dreams didn't. He hadn't lost love. He'd just been looking in the wrong corners. The Stoics would nod knowingly. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What need is there to chase shadows when the substance stands before you?" Romantic love's a shadow, shimmering, elusive, gone by morning if the wind shifts. But the love of family, the trust of friends, the fire of a cause? That's substance. It's not loud or flashy. It doesn't need to be. It's the friend who shows up with takeout when you're drowning, the parent who'd take a bullet for you, the ideal that makes your chest ache with purpose. Chris didn't need Zoe's chaos to feel alive. He had anchors he'd overlooked. Seneca would add a jab. He who runs only for a lover's glance stumbles over the riches at his feet. We fetishize romance, but it's just one thread in the tapestry. Psychology backs this up. Studies like those from the Harvard Grant Study tracking lives over decades show that deep relationships, not just romantic ones, are the backbone of happiness. Family ties, friendships, and meaningful work outlast and outweigh a fling's fleeting high. Chris found that out the hard way. Zoe was a sprint. His real loves were a marathon. So why fixate on one star when the sky's full? Romance can be sweet, but it's not the sole altar to kneel at. Pour into your people, blood or chosen. Fight for something bigger than a candlelit date. The Stoics didn't waste breath on what fades. They built on what endures. Chris learned that, and you can too. Love's not just a kiss in the dark. It's the hands that lift you, the causes that drive you, the ties that hold when the rest falls away. That's worth chasing. Number 7. No one is your perfect half. There's no such thing as your other half. No destined soulmate out there waiting to snap into place and make you whole. It's a pretty story, a Hollywood glow we've been spoon-fed, but the Stoics would call it a delusion. Epictetus, that sharp-tongued philosopher, taught us a hard truth. Everything in life is impermanent, people included. The idea of someone completing you sounds romantic until you realize it's a house built on sand, shifting, crumbling, gone when the tide rolls in. You're not a puzzle missing a piece. You're a full flame, flickering on your own. We love the myth, though. We're told there's a perfect match. A yin to our yang, a lock to our key, who'll swoop in, fix our flaws, and turn life into a montage of sunsets and slow dances. It's comforting, like a warm blanket on a cold night, until it unravels. People aren't permanent. They change, they leave, they fade, and even if they stay, they're not your architect. The Stoics knew this. No one's here to carry your load or define your edges. That's on you. Take Sophie. She was 31, a teacher with a soft spot for romance novels and a belief in fate. She met Ethan at a friend's wedding, tall, quiet, with a smile that felt like home. From the first dance, she was sold. This was it, her one. He got her quirks, finished her sentences, seemed to fit like a glove. Sophie built her world around him. Weekend hikes, shared playlists, dreams of a little house with a dog. She told everyone he was her missing half, the piece she'd been searching for. For 2 years it worked, until it didn't. Ethan started pulling back. Work stress, he said. Then it was late nights, missed calls, a distance she couldn't bridge. One rainy evening, he sat her down and ended it. I'm not who I was. I can't be what you need. Sophie shattered. She'd pinned her happiness on him, convinced he was her foundation. When he walked out, it wasn't just a breakup, it was an earthquake. She didn't just lose Ethan, she lost the version of herself she'd tied to him. If he was her perfect half, what was she now? Epictetus would have seen it coming. What need is there to weep over parts of life when the whole of it is fleeting? He'd say. People aren't fixtures, they're travelers, just like you. They might walk beside you for a stretch, but they're not your cornerstone. Sophie didn't need Ethan to complete her. She'd been complete before he showed up. She just forgot. The Stoics drilled this in. Everything, love, people, even your own breath, is on loan. Clinging to someone as your half sets you up to fall when the loan gets called in. Rewind Sophie's story. What if she'd never bought the myth? What if, instead of seeing Ethan as her savior, she'd seen him as a companion, great while it lasted but not her oxygen? She could have kept her footing, taught her classes, hiked alone when he bailed, leaned on her own spine. Marcus Aurelius would back this. You are enough if you would but see it. No one's your missing gear, they're just fellow cogs, spinning alongside you until they don't. The wreckage taught Sophie something. After Ethan, she stopped hunting for a perfect fit. She started small, grading papers with a coffee she brewed just right, running trails for the burn in her legs, laughing with friends who didn't need her to be fixed. She wasn't half of anything, she was all of herself, messy and whole. When she met Tom a year later, it wasn't a rescue mission. He was a bonus. not a necessity. That's the Stoic cut. No one's your perfect half because you're not broken. Epictetus would shrug. People come, people go, it's the dance of life. Build yourself, not your fantasies. Psychology nods too. Self-reliance breeds resilience, not reliance on a fleeting one. Sophie learned it the hard way. You're not waiting for someone to arrive, you're already here. Love's a guest, not your host. Let it visit, but don't let it own you. Number 8. True love is freedom, not chains. Real love doesn't shackle you, it sets you loose. If it feels like a cage, if it strips your freedom or yanks the reins from your hands, it's not the genuine article. The Stoics would squint at what we often call love, a tangle of need, control, and desperation, and call it a counterfeit. True love lifts you up without tying you down. It's a dance, not a prison sentence. Anything less is just a mask pretending to be the real thing. We've got it backwards. Society sells love as this all-consuming fire, something that sweeps you off your feet, owns your every thought, bends you to its will. We're told it's supposed to hurt, to demand, to keep you up at night, clutching your phone like a lifeline. But that's not love, that's a leash. If it costs you your peace, your autonomy, your grip on yourself, it's not a gift, it's a burden. The Stoics, those clear-eyed realists, would say love should free you to be more, not chain you to be less. Take Alex. He was 28, a mechanic with a steady hand and a soft spot for grand gestures. When he met Nina, he thought he'd struck gold. She was electric, bold, unpredictable, the kind of woman who could turn a quiet night into a story. Alex fell deep. He'd drop everything for her, skip work to drive her across town, cancel plans with friends when she texted, stay up arguing when she'd pick a fight over nothing. She'd demand his time, his attention, his passwords. Proof he loved her. Alex called it passion. He told himself this was what love looked like. All in, no brakes, a roller coaster he couldn't step off. But Nina's love came with chains. She'd guilt him for seeing his buddies, blow up if he didn't reply in 5 minutes, twist his words to keep him on edge. Alex stopped feeling like himself. He was jittery, second-guessing, a shadow of the guy who used to laugh easy. When he tried to pull back, she'd cry or rage, and he'd cave, terrified of losing her. After a year, he barely recognized his own reflection, worn out, tethered to her moods. When she finally left, claiming he wasn't enough, Alex didn't just mourn her, he mourned the freedom he'd surrendered. Seneca would have seen through it in a heartbeat. He wrote, "No man is free who is a slave to another's whims." If love locks you up, emotionally, mentally, physically, it's not love, it's captivity. Alex didn't lose a soulmate, he escaped a warden. True love doesn't clutch or control, it flows, leaving room for both to breathe. Nina's version was a vice grip, not a bond. The Stoics didn't mess around with this. Epictetus would cut deeper. What you call love, if it binds you, is but a thief in disguise. Real love doesn't demand you hand over your keys, it gives you wings. Think of the strongest couples you know, not the ones fused at the hip, but the ones who stand tall together because they can stand apart. Alex could have had that if he'd held his ground. Imagine him fixing cars, cracking beers with his crew, living his life, not as Nina's satellite, but as her equal. That's love that lasts, free, not fettered. After Nina, Alex rebuilt. He started small, reclaimed his weekends, tuned out the guilt trips he'd internalized, found his rhythm again. Months later, he met Priya. She didn't demand his soul, she shared hers. They'd hike together, then split off for their own gigs, her with her books, him with his wrenches. No ultimatums, no chains. He felt light, not locked. That's when he got it. Love should unshackle you, not bolt you down. Psychology echoes this. Studies on attachment show healthy love thrives on independence, not obsession. Cling too tight and you choke it, let it breathe and it grows. The Stoics lived this. Freedom's the root of everything worth having. If it controls you, it's not love, it's a mirage. True love sets you soaring, not scrambling. Alex learned that. You can too. Don't settle for a cell block with a rose on the door, hold out for the real deal. Conclusion. Love like a Stoic. Don't chase, attract. Love isn't a race to run, it's a flame that finds you when you've forged yourself into your strongest form. The Stoics didn't sprint after it, panting and pleading because they knew their worth didn't hinge on someone else's shadow falling beside theirs. They didn't scour the world for a perfect match. They carved themselves into something whole, something unshakable. And here's the quiet magic. In doing so, They became magnets for what matched their steel. You've got a fork in the road. You can keep chasing, lungs burning, eyes fixed on a horizon that keeps slipping away, or you can stop. Turn inward. Hammer out the dents, sharpen your edges, build a life so solid that love doesn't just stumble across you, it can't help but stay. The Stoics would bet on the second path, not because it's easier, but because it's truer. A hunter exhausts himself. A flame draws the moths without lifting a finger. The choice is yours. Keep running or start glowing. Thanks for tuning into this journey on Victory Stoic. If this hit you where it counts, give it a like, share it with someone who needs the nudge, and hit that subscribe button to join the ranks of those refusing to chase what's already within reach. Drop your battle cry in the comments below, something like, "I don't chase, I attract." Share your story too, where you've been, where you're forging ahead. Because love, the real kind, doesn't flee from a soul that stands tall. It arrives unbidden when you're ready to meet it as an equal.